Just briefly to say, there was a suggestion earlier that maybe we shouldn't be discussing this issue, and obviously it is wholly appropriate for this committee to discuss the constitutional amendment, because what we're discussing here, of course, is the principle, not the specifics. The specifics obviously is for another committee to deal with, but it's wholly appropriate that we should discuss this, because in my view it's the only certain protection against privatisation of water services. And the suggestion, that the current stated view of political parties and individual politicians that they're not in favour of privatisation is any guarantee against it is
Deputy, do you have a question, or are you making statements?
Is almost laughable.
Do you have a question?
Well, I mean, that was a statement made by another committee member, and I'm
trying to move on because, in fairness, I want to let other people in.
Here, but I mean, it simply doesn't stand up. But one of the questions I have is for both. Is, in your view, is a constitutional amendment the only certain protection against privatisation? Currently, isn't it the case that any protection that is there currently, any protection, whichever ones it may be, that they can be changed, those protections can be changed by an act of the Oireachtas? And in relation to the question of the alienation of assets, there obviously appears to be a difference of opinion in relation to this. And isn't that in itself an indication that a constitutional amendment is the better way of proceeding in this area? Because if we have two, the department and the legal views here differing, isn't it quite clear that the only way to get certainty is in fact a constitutional amendment? And could I just ask, in relation to voting on Irish Water in relation to the company, do the Minister have voting rights? Do Arvia have voting rights in relation to that? And finally, just to get a yes or no answer, Mr. O'Toole might tell us if he's satisfied that a constitutional amendment wouldn't in any way affect the current group water schemes that are in existence.
Thank you, Deputy. My understanding is that some of the questions you've asked were asked by Deputy Murphy already. Is that the case, Deputy Murphy? That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but certainly you've asked two questions at the end. You asked 5 questions. 2 at the end, I think, have not been asked before. But I'll ask our guests to answer each of the 5 questions. But I thought they had 3 of them answered before.
I don't think they're the same.
Yeah, you may be correct.
Yeah, is a constitutional amendment the only way?
Certain way. Yes.
The only certain way. I would say yes to that. Any other protections, can they be removed? Again, I would say yes to that. As to the difference of opinion, I won't comment. That's already said. And then, am I satisfied that? Well, the Arvia question is for Ms. Graham, I think. And am I satisfied it wouldn't in any way affect existing rights? Yes, is the answer.
Okay. Ms. Graham.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy. I think I can only really refer back to my statement in which I said that we had sought to maximise the protections within the existing legislation. The Minister has recognised both the sincerity of the proposals coming forward and the concerns that have been raised, and is open to if a workable proposals can be brought forward, and that is why the bill was not proposed and the suggestion that it needs legal and technical scrutiny when it comes to committee stage. Obviously, as I think we've referred to, constitutional protection is always higher than a legislative provision, and we've talked about the issues around wording. On the voting, obviously Arvia itself is owned by the state, and then Arvia owns Irish Water, and it has the voting rights. The Minister doesn't have the voting rights, and the Minister has the economic rights. But there are a range of things within the legislation which ministerial consent is required, and the Minister also gives Ervia what is called a shareholders' expectation letter, which, as the shareholder of the company, sets out the range of things of how it is expected that the state, as a state company, they should perform. And that would be across a number of metrics, and it would be common to others within the New Era family, if you like, the ESB, Gas Networks Ireland, and others. So that would be setting out a range of things to do with dividend policy, to do with water policy, energy policy, etc. So just to hear why the Minister doesn't have a voting right, there's obviously a policy construct within the legislation, within the New Era legislation, and within the specific ministerial consents that are set out in legislation.